Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Arifa Khandwala and I'm the moderator for today's panel on civic engagement held by Women to Women Forum. I am very grateful to all our panelists for joining us today to speak on this very timely and important topic. To start off, I want to introduce myself. I was in the Civil Rights Commission in Princeton, New Jersey. I am also a climate activist and I am active politically in my town in Princeton here. My background is in applied math and policy. And I have worked in climate science research, and I was also a fellow at Harvard University. So, what I mean by civic engagement is work that we do to improve the broader communities in which we live in. And right now, we Pakistani Americans and Muslims are again going through a very difficult time right now in our adopted country. And so our involvement with broader American society becomes even more important. And so the purpose of this panel is to help strengthen our voices by showing us how to participate in our larger communities. And through the stories of a very distinguished panelists, all three have done incredible work, literally for decades, not only within the Pakistani American and Muslim community, but also for larger American society. So I'd like to introduce you to our panelists. So I'm going to start with Saima Bhutta, who is a healthcare provider by profession and an ardent community activist and volunteer. Saima is passionate about the fighting against social and racial injustices and all inequalities towards a vulnerable population. She has been the recipient of numerous awards and recognition, including the Martin Luther King Jr. Freedom Medal, Outstanding Women of Burlington County, New Jersey Governor's Jefferson Award, and a certificate of congressional recognition from the U.S. House of Representatives. She serves on several committees and commissions, including New Jersey Asian Pacific Islander Commission, the Burlington County Board of Social Services, and Moorestown Township Sustainable Moorestown Committee. She's also an active member of the Muslim community of South Jersey, a teacher in Islamic Sunday School, and a member of Sisterhood of Salam Shalom and the Jewish Christian Muslim Dialogue of Southern Jersey. And she's a devoted wife and proud mother to 3 children. Then I'd like to introduce Afshin Shamsi, who is the Vice President of Communications and Marketing at Union Theological Seminary in New York City. She was elected to the Princeton Public Schools Board of Education, where she was chair of the External Affairs Committee. She's also the vice chair of Princeton Civil Rights Commission and was also appointed to the Princeton Human Services Commission. In addition, she is a former ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union, New Jersey board member, and currently serves as the board of MGAGE, which is a Muslim Political Action Committee. She holds a master's degree from Columbia University in Strategic Communications. And finally, I'm going to introduce Nusrat Sohail, who I'm sure we all know very well. She is the force behind Women to Women Forum. Nusrat is on the Human Services Commission in East Brunswick, New Jersey, and has served the Pakistani community in many different ways. She was the principal of an Islamic school. Nusrat also runs Shizori House, a transitional home for women. She teaches Urdu and is a strong advocate for imparting our cultural values. So the audience is welcome to ask questions in the chat, and depending on the time, we will try to answer questions at the end of the panel discussion. And now the first question for the panel is, what does civic engagement mean to you? And could you also talk about the difference between civic engagement and volunteerism in our own community? So who would like to go first?
I mean, I can speak for that. Nusrat, you showed interest in that as well, so we can.
Nusrat, would you like?
Yeah, I'll join in. So for me, civic engagement means working to build up the community and be a good citizen in an easy way. And it can mean, it has multi layers. Civic engagement would mean go and vote at a basic level, and that is how you are an engaged citizen. But there's more to it, meaning serve on the different committees of your towns, your state, different other organizations. There are nonprofits where you can work to build up the society. That is what civic engagement means. And but there's an element of it which is called volunteerism. So some civic engagement capacity is paid, but while volunteerism is not. So a lot of civic engagement work is based on volunteerism, meaning uh, like we run a nonprofit. We are 100% volunteers on our team. And I know of many other committees where I serve, many other boards that I serve, they're all voluntary and they are all examples of civic engagement.
Somebody else wants to take that question on?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for giving me this chance, Arifa. So as Nusra just mentioned, that volunteerism is a part of general civic engagement. Since civic engagement means a lot, you can put environmentalism is part that is a civic engagement. Service model is a civic engagement. Voter registration training is a example of a civic engagement. So all these things that we can do for the community to uplift the community, to educate a community, comes under the realm of civic engagement. And as Nusrat mentioned, that volunteerism is one where you you don't get paid, but you get the benefit. Like for instance, youth can volunteer and get certification of hours that they need for volunteerism through that. So that's how it is. And basically, the goal is to um, to uplift the community, to help the community gain momentum, and basically just to get the community engaged and work with the community to uplift the community.
I
Yeah.
think both of you said it really well. And all I'll add is that it's an individual or group activity to address issues of public concern. The activities can be political or non political actions to protect public values or make a change in the community. Sometimes people perceive that only political activity constitutes civic engagement, but non political actions to protect public values also constitute civic engagement. And you'll find a lot of nonprofit jobs have a civic engagement component as well.
Okay. Thank you very much. So I just want to move on to my next question. Is Nusrat, I'm going to ask you to start off with this, if you don't mind. So, what work are you doing for your own community, and what do you think is needed? And I think in this case, I mean, I guess in the case of Women to Women Forum, especially in us, is the Pakistani American community, right? So we all belong in multiple communities: Pakistani American community, the Muslim community, the community in which we live in, and the larger national community of Americans. So,
Yeah. So I'm basically a history educator, and we have spoken about civic engagement in the classes, in middle school and high school classes a lot. And this is where I have learned how important civic engagement is at each individual level. A society cannot function effectively and efficiently for anyone if the civic engagement component is not there. So, for that reason, I have realized as a Pakistani American, I came to know about this as an adult. Um, and which means that uh, there are many women out there who are new immigrants and do not know about it. And we all are citizens of this country. So uh, I initiated Women to Women Forum as a forum to have discussions about these things and to relate where our values are with this country by being an efficient and effective component of the society. And this is how Women to Women Forum started. And then we have started multiple programs. And one of the program is about domestic violence, where we help out women in the language by understanding by having the understanding of the culture, but not just the culture, but the belief system, and with which we are empowering those women who are displeased, who are not engaged in the larger society. And we have created a whole big platform, Shazori House, for that, to empower such women. And this is just one of the programs. We have multiple other programs. Our website, woman to woman forum.org, has many other programs, and we would love people to look at it and get engaged with us.
What do you think a community needs, Nusrat? I mean, what else could we do? So we have Asheen and Sama here too. Is it what do you folks think we can contribute to our own community first?
These two ladies, Pakistani American women, are like the great examples of what civic engagement is. And this is what we want to replicate in our smaller communities. Wherever we live, we need to have these similar, role models for us. So I actually would ask the same question, or maybe, ask you to forward this question from them, that what each of them are doing within those communities where they live, although they are not too far from us, but they are exemplary, uh, people who are engaging community, larger community, to for civic engagement.
Okay, thank you. So I just would like to discuss as to, I mean, we talked about our own community right now, Shazoria House, and language and how to help people adjust to our surroundings here. And I just want to move on to the larger picture now, where we talk about civic engagement in broader society. And I would love to hear from Saima and Afshin and Nusrat as to what was your journey in getting to the space that you are now, and what made you start, and how did you start? We are all immigrants here, and we all have different levels of comfort interacting in this society. So I would love to hear that.
Thank you, Arfa. So that's a wonderful question. As a matter of fact, we all bring our stories and our baggages with us. So
We do.
I was no exception. For the past 28 years that I've been living in New Jersey, I felt that I moved here as a young mom. I had a little baby in my hand, and I really wanted to connect with the community. At that point, there weren't too many Pakistanis in this area, especially the South Jersey locale where we are living. And soon I felt a need that I need to communicate with the community at large, to make friends with other young mothers. And then I realized that there's more to that. I wanted to share my culture and my heritage with them, because that is what I bring with me, and I need to share it. There was a great urge inside to share that aspect of my life with them. And I started doing it, and there was a lot of positive energy. I felt, that people liked it and they wanted to know more about it. And at that point, I got a bunch of like-minded people together, and we founded an organization called the Pakistan American Society of South Jersey, where we promote our diversity and to reach out to the community at large and share with them our beautiful diversity and our heritage. And at the same time, bring our Pakistani American population up, bring them, uplift them, bring opportunities for the children. Our youth to get engaged in politics. And how we did that was that we started reaching out to the local politicians, and our congressmen and all, and finding internships for our community youth, and many of them did go to be part of their interns, you see, and ended up in law schools and all. So that was our first stage, how we got engaged, and that was the baby steps that we took to get ourselves adjusted in South Jersey. And I think we have come a long way. Now there are several organizations who are doing similar outreach work that we did at 27 years ago, and from there we went on to create more nonprofits. Um, there are two nonprofits that I co-founded, and there's one nonprofit that I totally started on my own with my husband and my family, to do things that I'm passionate about. like food insecurity, covering that aspect, uplifting women of color and immigrants, those kind of things that we wanted to do, and educate people about civic responsibility. That is what we are doing with these three organizations in South Jersey.
Good.
What an inspiring story, Saima. And it's so wonderful to hear about your start on your journey to where you are today. I'll just share that I've always been passionate about social justice. And in the post 9/11 era, when 9/11 happened, um, I decided that I would work in the civil rights arena. And from there, I've only ever worked for organizations that advance social justice. And so, when I was working for a Muslim civil rights organization, specifically CARE New Jersey, um, as part of my work, I was invited to the library, I think, Princeton Public Library, to do a talk. And so I spoke about women in Islam, and a board of education member from Princeton Public Schools was there for my talk. And he approached me later on and said, we'd love to have you run for school board and be a part of our school board. And so I had sort of never contemplated running for elected office. It's really never been on my list. And it's not something I aspire to. So I kind of came home, and at the time I was married, and I said to my husband, I think you should do this because this is not something I want to do. And he's like, no, absolutely not. Like, I'm not interested in this either. And so anyway, like, I ended up doing it. I ended up running. And when I got elected, um, it was interesting because I had a platform to advance equity. And so I raised issues of equity on the board, where I was on the Student Achievement Committee. And so I raised the questions about how equitably all of our students were being treated. Did they have equal access to opportunities that we were offering them? And so I realized that helped me realize that, when you are in a position of influence and you could do something, you can, help people from that platform. And so later on, I was invited to serve on the Princeton Civil Rights Commission and the Human Services Commission. And I worked on projects where I helped to advance equity for our community members, particularly for historically marginalized communities, like developing, as part of a committee, developing a racial equity impact assessment toolkit to address institutional and structural racism at the municipal level. And so from there, I've just worked on a number of projects to advance equity, and been invited to serve on a number of different boards. And it's been a journey, but my passion has always been to advance social justice, and it's never been to serve in leadership roles. I don't think that's ever something I've aspired to. But I think when you work to advance justice for all communities, then you end up, becoming someone that people reach out to for help with projects and things to do. So that was my journey to where I am today.
Okay. Thank you so much for talking about your journeys. Nusrat, would you like to add something?
So my journey is somewhat similar to everybody else's. I worked in education capacity, and my experiences come from there. And especially, it was eye opening for me when I started conducting language camps with West Windsor School District and with Kane University and at NYU. And we realized that Pakistani American women specifically are still not advancing. Although we live in America, we receive similar education in through public school system and through a higher ed system. But somehow, when it comes to the community development, we are a little bit, mm, I don't want to use the word behind, but not there yet. Um, And like little examples are when we send out emails, mothers don't respond. And then when you we call and talk to them, so they would say they had never seen the emails. So there was some factor missing that I felt, that our community is not engaged in what 21st century requires them to do, or what American society requires them to do. So I felt that it is important to have a network of first our own similar cultural group, and then uplift each other to engage in the larger society and to become like everybody else. And that's how my concept of uh, developing this forum and then a nonprofit, and then with multiple programs, especially identifying role models within the community, highlighting them, celebrate them, and then establishing a segment for charity and empowering women. That's how we built it up gradually. And I feel I'm just thrown into it. I never saw myself as Afshin said, any nonprofit leader or anyone who has this aspiration towards, getting some position. It just came our way with time and with experiences.
Thank you so much for all your answers. It sounds like there are certain common threads that I can take from this, which would be its passion for social justice and equality for all that triggered something, and then one thing led to another, and so the your journey continued onwards. I would love to add to, if you, how did it make you grow as a person? Did it lead to your personal growth? How did it benefit all of you? I mean, so you gave, but one also gets back. And where do you hope to see yourselves? Saima, would you like to give it a shot?
Um, so, as Afshin also mentioned, that most of us have started this as a passion,
Yeah.
an outreach for the passions that we carry for service, as a service model or as a social justice model. At least uh, in my case, being a leader was not the goal. To this day, I feel that when people call me a leader, because probably what I do make me come in that realm of leadership. I still feel very embarrassed calling myself a leader. I feel that I'm more of a social worker than a leader. I try to connect communities and try to make sure that there is work being done to uplift the community at different stages of development, whether it's our youth, our women of color, or our communities of elderly or food insecure communities. They're all, helped. And what I gain from this is my inner satisfaction to start with, because I come from a family of two wonderful parents that I'm their prodigy, who work towards similar goals all their lives. I remember both my parents are physicians, and I remember as a child that they would hold eye camps, free eye, operations were done. They would just go into the inner villages of Kashmir, and would have camps there and would do surgeries for cleft palates, free of charge for people. So I think that growing up, so I carried that a whole the baggage that I brought with me, the service model has to be brought out, has to be utilized. So that's what I did all my life, to this day. Whenever I see injustice, I have to speak against it. Whenever I see that people are not being fed, or women of color are not being treated equally, I have to put my 2 cents in. So that's what I do, and and what I've gained from it is that there is now a much vibrant community who, I don't know if they realize or not, but everything that we have gained so far, our interaction with the community leaders at large, with the politicians, we brought them to a level where now they have attained something that we did not have when we started out. So I feel that sometimes the community takes that for granted and not realizes where we have come from and how much we have achieved, as a result of all those years of work that went into um, building a rapport with those people at federal, state, and community level. You see what I.
Thank you so much for that. I just want to, I think we're running out of time. I just want to move on to some more other questions. So, when we talk about working at the state, the federal, local level, we're dealing with broader spaces, with people of all types. And, and even white spaces and liberal spaces can be difficult for people of color to work with. And I'm wondering what your experiences have been and how have you dealt with the problems that arise in these spaces? Um,
So I can take that. Yeah.
yeah.
Initially, I always sort of thought that being in progressive spaces, because when you're working in social justice, often you're working with progressive partners who share your beliefs, and I thought we're all the same. We have the same set of values, and we're all working to advance justice. And while that is true, and that is the case, even in progressive spaces, sometimes because of the messages that society bombards us with, there's tremendous amount of research on this, by the way, that society from a very early age bombards us with messages about um, people in different communities in different ways, and we, while we may not even be conscious of our own biases, we have these implicit biases that play out in different ways when we interact with people. And so even in progressive spaces, I found that I encountered implicit bias, I and so what I think that was initially challenging for me to deal with, because we're among allies and friends, and then when something happens where someone challenges you out of a place of implicit bias, how do you address that? Because essentially you're addressing that with an ally or a friend. And so I've always found that, having, instead of utilizing that public space to have that conversation with them and being confrontational, like I always take the opportunity afterwards to talk to them and have a one-on-one conversation with them and come at it from a stance of, how it made me feel, and share with them, how our relationship is so important to me, and that, how they're an important part of, the community that I engage with, and I want to maintain and build up that relationship. But then also how their comments in that public space made me feel, and how we can move forward together so that we can work collaboratively without having such instances. And so I think it's a sad reality that as people of color, as immigrants, will always face bias. My experience has been that I faced bias in a lot of progressive spaces as well. So
Thank you for that information, knowledge. And I'm just, has it worked well for you, your solution? I mean, has it been,
yes,
did things improve?
things improved. Yes.
Well, that's good to know.
It's 8 o'clock.
Sorry about that. That was my clock warning me about the time. I mean, what advice would you give to your audience for them to help them create a path towards greater connection? So how does one? I mean, how does one begin if you're starting from scratch? And then, are there any volunteer opportunities in the organizations that you work with? So if somebody reached out to you, would you be? Is any recommendations that you might have?
I can go ahead with that.
Okay.
Um, so yes, there are tons of volunteer activities that people can get involved with, especially if you're newer to a place and you feel that you really need to contribute. First of all, you need to tap into your interests, okay? Because you can be a good contributor if you have a certain amount of interest in that particular volunteerism activity. So if you are passionate about, for instance, volunteerism, you can go and work like let's say if you want to work in with environmental work, there are townships who have these different committees that work on environment. So you can get involved with that. There are diversity committees. As a matter of fact, in my own town, I helped establish a diversity committee, equity and inclusion committee called the Better Together Morristown. I was on their task force, and we put it all together and devised a survey how our township would like a diversity committee to be, and now it's thriving for the past 4 years. You see, so these are the things that we can get involved in, and if we think that we can contribute to forming something, because being I always felt that. I have done a lot of things that were historic in nature, meaning that I was the first one to do that. The proclamations that I've received so far, I have lots of proclamations that I've received for things that were historic in nature. For
Mm.
instance, the first proclamation for the Heritage Month, for instance, that we received, the proclamation for Ramadan and Eid for the first time in our town. There will be more proclamations like that, but the historic one was the first one, you see. So I'm really proud and honored that and many people like myself who were the first people in their towns or townships who were the first one to do that, and that shows that you were dedicated to an idea, and you went all the way and proved it to the committees and to the town council that you deserve recognition and your people deserve recognition. You don't have to be part of a bigger organization. You could be an individual who has done something. You don't have to be part of a Muslim group or a part of you could be just as an individual who has done a lot of work for the committee and be there and prove it, by your actions and by the words and everything that you've done it, and you'll get honored, for that.
I would just share that follow your passion. So, um, anything that you're passionate about, whether it's hunger, homelessness, women's rights, the environment, um, find an opportunity in your town to volunteer either with your schools or with the township or with the local nonprofit on how to advance your passion and help people through your passion, right? Because then it doesn't feel like work. If you're not taking on another project, you're engaging in your passion, right? And you're helping uplift other people through your passion. As far as volunteer opportunities go, like I often have people reach out to me, and I'm happy to connect them. So please feel free to reach out, and I would say the biggest impact you can have is locally where you live. And so try to find opportunities locally where you live. But I'm also happy to help you make those connections if it's helpful.
Okay, Nusrat. Okay. Okay. So we can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Um, so this is the question coming from my team, and I definitely would love to answer. But I also would like to answer about the volunteer opportunities. Woman to Woman Forum is developed by Pakistani American women for the larger community. Although I'm not saying that we are working to not to develop, other uh, community members, but as I said initially, my experiences were such that my colleagues at work used to say that, why do one of us would have to go to Pakistan and build up schools over there? Why don't one of you would do something like that? Or why within your own community do we have to come? Why do we have to come and give workshops to help you build up your community here? So this used to, bother me a lot. And then over the period of time, I realized that because that we are new immigrant, and we do not know where to go. That's how simple it is. So now we have these wonderful friends of mine, Saima and Afshin, who are sharing that they have collected, volunteer opportunities on the side, and they can help out those who would like to volunteer wherever their passionate is. You will be able to find something, and giving back is something that is innate within us, in all of us. We would like to give back because it gives us some personal reward that we can explain with the tangible rewards, although that matters too. And I believe due to this reason we all look for something to do to uh, fulfill our soul. I think that the reward that we get is at soul level. and there is something out there. And if you can't find it, connect with us. Our organization does the same, connect people to the right sources for youth, for adult. And many of us, as Pakistani Americans, we have, as I said before, are, maybe some of them are not working, but not working doesn't mean that you can't be engaged in, in civic activities. There can be plenty of activities that we can get engaged and uh, become productive. And this is how societies function and grow, and we need to play our part in it. And so that's where I feel that, where we can help. And now this funding part, so that is for sure is a challenge. So far how we are functioning, we function at our board level. We collect basic funds, we plan a project, and we find a cost attached to it and say, hey, we need to do this. Let's, uh, create a pool of funds ourselves, or ask, our moms and neighbors and friends, and that's how we collect funds. But this is not an easy way. There should be other ways, and we are also looking for other opportunities, maybe at state level, maybe at personal township level. What other opportunities are there? We are always on the lookout for that. Anyone else who has a better experience than we have, please share. Afshin and Simon.
Um, I think you're right because funds are very important. We definitely need to have our marketing teams with us for all nonprofits. And the marketing team's job is to do the work of reaching out to the community and making sure that we could get some sponsors and a lot of these organizations or nonprofits run on sponsorships, as you know, and we've been working with them for many years now. And then there are some generous people out there who help out. But nowadays, government are providing a lot of grants, and we should tap into those grants as well. Because I know there are grants for every single thing that you think of. I'm on a sustainable committee in my township, where we try to uh, do things that would sustain our community, from energy to arts to healthcare. There are grants available, so we can all tap into those grants and work towards our passions or our goals that we have set up. For instance, in that committee, I do work to outreach for health services or health fairs that we put up. Okay, that's a great way to for sustainability, because you're promoting health, wellness, yoga, and everything comes under that realm of that. So these are the things that, and then we can get grants if possible. Look into grants. This team should be the marketing team that I'm mentioning to you should be looking into those grants all the time. That's their job. So we need to get a bunch of people with us who are from among our youth, who are good at all these different things that we mentioned, and would give them the challenge of, yes, go and do this. It's your baby, you take care of it, kind of a thing. So I think youth is very vibrant in our state, and I think they are willing now to take up these kind of roles.
In fact, yeah, how can the kids, the next question is, how can the kids be involved in that?
So I think kids have a. I'll take that first.
Yeah.
So I think kids have a lot of opportunities to get involved just through the public school system or any private school that they might be in. Right? You can host an interfaith iftar for your school or your broader community, and through that, people get to learn about you, your community, your values, your faith tradition. You can also Kids can also get involved in clubs at school and do something with the broader community, so that you're not just engaging the school community, but you're engaging the broader community. So you could be part of the Do Something Club and come up with a project that advances that addresses some pressing issue in your community. It could be hunger, it could be domestic violence, it could be advancing equity for historically marginalized communities. It could be addressing racism. It could be any number of things that you are passionate about and want to do. Again, I think kids should also follow their passion and what they're passionate about, because that is something that I learned. When I was in my program at Columbia University, we had a one credit course that we had to take on leadership, and as part of that course, I had to interview a leader and learn about their leadership style, and I decided, when am I going to get this opportunity again? So I ended up interviewing three, people who I thought I wanted to learn from, and so the one thing that all those three leaders had in common, an executive director of a nonprofit, a CEO of a nonprofit, and an elected official, the one thing that all three of them had in common was that they all said that we followed our passion, and it was a crazy zigzag journey to get to where we are. It was not a straight line. It was not what we planned. It was not what we expected. But because we followed our passion, that is how we got to where we are today. And so, even for kids, I would say follow your passion, engage in projects with your broader community that you're passionate about. And I'll just share that, in my community, if I've served on a board, I have invited, students from our community to put forward the names of students from our community to serve on those boards as well. And so, I served on the board of Not in Our Town, and I suggested some students from the local high school to serve on that board as well. And they became board members, and they served, and they worked to advance equity for people of color, and address issues of racism. And so, as part of that board, and um, I would say just get involved with your local community and find opportunities that make sense for you, that meet your passion at the same time.
Thank you so much for those answers. It was really helpful. And I'm wondering how much time do we have left, Nusrat?
I think we have addressed the questions about the same time. Um, we
So,
can, yes, if we have done all the questions, we are good to go. But I would definitely want to say that, thank you everyone for, doing such a wonderful segment on civic engagement. This is one topic that is very close to my heart too, because I feel that not many of us are able to find what their passions are and serve. It is extremely important for us as Pakistani American, as South Asian American, as Muslim American to be engaged in community development projects for the benefit of all. Because we want to leave this world, this country, a better place for all, and we need to play our part.
thank you again, Nusrat, Saima, and Afshin for coming. And very much appreciate your time and taking all these questions on. And I can tell you from my own personal experiences that what you said about passion, it's extremely important. And once we have the right passion, it really drives us right. We aligned ourselves towards our passion. It really drives us forward. Okay, I guess if you have any, Afshin has mentioned that we can reach out to her for volunteer opportunities. Hopefully, Women to Women Forum can connect us with her. And that's it for today. Good office.
Thank you.
Thank
The
you.